8 minutes. Somebody put a stopwatch on me. The 26th annual meeting of the Congregational group is taking place in Boston this year, and the theme is, let us take from the altars of the past the flame and not the ashes, pass it on. When I first saw the theme, it probably did the same thing to me as it did to you. What a ridiculous kind of a theme, and it's only because I decided to preach on it, because I figured there must be something in it, that it began to take some focus. I played with it for a long period of time. What do you mean by the flame and the ashes? All flame, with the exception of some modern fuels, create ashes. And as I played with that particular type of thought, I felt that maybe what we ought to be asking is, when we pass it on a flame, we ought to be careful what and who we're burning. Interesting thought, isn't it? When you pass on the flame, you are destroying something, even in the gas flames. And the question ought to be raised, what is it that we're destroying? The fires of Spain that burned the heretics and drove the Jews out were passing on the flame, but the fuel itself was the destruction of the human spirit. So I began to talk about that a little bit. I watched the fire and noticed that there were many different colors to the fire. And you recognize it too if you build a fire in your fireplace, depending upon what the fuel itself is. And so I played for a while with the idea of developing that we have to understand what fuel we're going to burn before we can decide what flames are to be passed on. Then as I looked at the many colored flames, I thought perhaps we ought to deal with the concept that good congregational heritage says that we are made up of many fuels, resulting in many colors to the flame, oftentimes burning independently, but at other times burning together. That would seem to be a good statement of what this church and what our congregational way is. For each of us bringing our own heritage, our own backgrounds, a wide range of potentials, and contributing to the common flame to hand on. Well, that's sermon number 1. Number 2 said, I thought maybe what we ought to do is to stop and realize that called for what is really the first point of today's mini sermon, a decision. The most outstanding call that can be made by that concept for me is that as a Congregationalist, as a Christian, as a human being, first and foremost, I am constantly in a situation where I must make decisions. If I were asked to list the most tragic area of human life today, I think it would have to be that we are creating a society where people don't know where they are going and don't have the strength and the power to make the decisions to take their destiny in their own hands. They can't accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. I was singing that song during your prayer. I hope that wasn't anti-religious, but it kept rolling into my mind. You got to accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative, and that means choosing what is the positive and choosing what is the negative to be eliminated. And so as I looked at the theme, one of the problems that we as Congregationalists face is that there are an awful lot of people that don't know the difference between the ashes and the flame and think they're passing on the flame when they're handing you some ashes. Decisions and how you make those decisions are extremely important in the first part. But having made the decision, it seems to me that we have to recognize that all flame comes from the past. And that if we don't emphasize that fact, we have a tendency to look backwards only and see what has been done that is good. We have a Forefounders Day here every year, and we get a few people out on that day that never come again. Smiling, we are the founders of this church. Looking back with pride. God love them. If they hadn't been here, the church wouldn't have been here. But the fact of the matter is, those are dead ashes now. 15 years ago, they were living ashes, and flame, and heat, and drive. But if it hasn't done anything more than that, they are purely dead ashes. And if we pass only that along, we have failed as a church. What we need to do is to breathe into those dead ashes a breath of life, of our own experience, so that ever anew we are rekindling the flame and passing it on to the generation which comes ahead. And that takes dedication. It takes an understanding of what we mean by our own lives and what this church means to each one of us. But dedication is a nice, easy word. It's become the whole, one of the catchwords of modern society. I love words. I'm constantly hearing now a word which I understand but makes no sense. Interfacing. That's a word in the industrial community now. We're interfacing. I don't like to interface. I heard a guy say the other night, talking in conversation with an individual. Now, what does interfacing mean but conversation, right? And he's sitting there with a group of people and saying, I don't like to interface. Well, dedication's a word like that. We have all kinds of dedications. Everybody goes through, marches, prays the various things, the centennial. We've seen it all the way down, and we've done our trip. We've made it look good. We've dedicated, we're dedicated, and we all go out. We talk about dedication with new members, but dedication doesn't mean a thing until there's a third thing that comes with it, and that's determination. Determination to make it happen. All of the right thinking, all of the right ideas, all of the right understanding of what to pass on, all of the right abilities, all of the dedication to the high ideals don't mean a thing until we reach out with determination to make it happen. And that's where we fall down most often. We somehow or another go through the whole sweep of things and feel good because we've done the right thinking, because we've made the right choices, and because we've dedicated ourselves to carrying it off, and then we sit back and wait. And that's all that happens. We wait. It's the determination to take that flame, keeping it alive, keeping it fueled with the right kinds of experiences, keeping it burning brightly and passing on it with validity to the generation that is to follow, that makes it all happen. So I think determination is the key to our thought. Take not from the altars of the past the ashes, but the flame. Determine which of the flames we wish to take. Make those decisions. Dedicate ourselves to passing it on. But God give us the determination to make it happen.